Well, hello and welcome to the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. The gentleman to my right, he is the mind behind all of this, the genius, as it were, in the department of creating a greater wealth. The man behind Blue Sky Factory, it's Derek Whitaker.
Hello. It's good to be here once again.
Oh, mate, great to have you here. Absolutely. Well, let's jump into the show. I've got a couple of things. I'm playing with mice in the background here. It's not a habit that I normally like to do. I mean, I'll keep away from the rodents, but we've got a lot to talk about today, and I need to be on my ball. So on the ball, rather. So let's fire into what we're going to cover today.
We're going to start with Trump's big trip to Scotland that's happened. And I'm going to look at how all this has implications for Australia, what's going on in the world and how the world relates to the United States and where we go from here. It was a very interesting sort of meeting that he had with Ursula back the other week when she visited him. She flew up to Scotland to visit him at his golf course there. And of course, you're kind of doing deals when he's away from home on his territory. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Strange, isn't it? Yeah. I did notice how he was very firm on the fact that his mum's from Scotland and all of that. Yeah, got to make sure that I know you've laid the ground that you're in charge. This is your heritage too, right? That's
right. You won't see him wearing a kilt, though, I doubt. But have a look at the posture that both of them held. This is before the press conference went live, and I just want to. There's volumes. This image speaks volumes, and this is probably what you won't see on the mainstream media. Check this out.
Check this out. Now I'm going to go to one of the. Here we go. This is special.
Well, thank you very much. It's a beautiful Sunday in Scotland, and we thought we could cut things short and certainly travel distance, by having our meeting here. So we discussed options, and it's an honor to have the President of the European Union.
I cut it off there for this reason. Look at her body language. It speaks volumes.
It really does. Well, I did enjoy the pregnant pause to start with. There was a lot of silence there, wasn't there? And I appreciate they're obviously ready to go onto air, but geez.
She's not relaxed.
No.
She's not relaxed. He's confident the way he's sitting forward and that sort of thing. It's like, yep, let's have a chat. I'm in control here. And I think it kind of reflects a lot of the deal that's gone down with, of course, what's been negotiated. Trump thinks it's a fantastic deal. We'll hear his comments in a moment, but let's look at the nitty-gritty of this, and I'll present both sides. I'll even quote the World Economic Forum, so fasten your seatbelt for that, or you might need to breathe into a paper bag. But look, from the White House, they've said that the EU is going to purchase $750 billion of US energy. And make new investments of $600 billion in the US, all by 2028. What they're doing is reached a cooperation agreement on reciprocal, fair and balanced trade. It's a deal where US farmers, ranchers, fishermen and manufacturers increase their exports from the US to the EU, expand business opportunities, reduce the goods trade deficit with the EU. They'll remove significant tariffs to the EU, including the elimination of all EU tariffs on industrial goods, US industrial goods, American-made, American good grown to compete and win in Europe. They want to look at fueling exports, expanding production, allowing American businesses of all sizes to reach millions of new customers across the Atlantic. And of course, this is really interesting because EU has really controlled its borders as tightly as it can, especially even in the digital space, where you go to a website these days and it says, we put cookies on a website. That's all because of what the EU did and imposed upon the world. And so it's kind of like shifting this. Now, there's going to be big investment in the United States and the EU, $600 billion. And of course, this is in addition to over $1 billion of EU companies already invested in the US every year. They're going to be unleashing US energy. The tariff barriers are coming down. The non-tariff barriers for US industrial exports are coming down. Non-tariff barriers for US agriculture exports. It's a lot. The WEF, though, they don't think it's such a great idea.
World Economic Forum. Don't we love them?
Well, this is from their website. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has criticised the deal as hurting both the US and EU, saying it will cause considerable damage. Germany is Europe's largest exporter of goods to the US, followed by Ireland, Italy and France. And French Minister Francois Bayrou said that it was a dark day for the EU. They're concerned about rising inflation, its impact on economic growth in Europe, and they're bad-mouthing it, basically.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
So if we have a look at Trump's summation of it just now in the next video, it's really, really interesting. Of course, he's selling it to us, and he thinks it's a great deal for the United States.
He's a great salesman, though.
months ago, this negotiation. So we knew pretty much what we were getting into, and we were able to make a deal that's very satisfactory to both sides. So it's a very powerful deal. It's a very big deal. It's the biggest of all the deals. It will be the biggest of all the deals. So we're very honored to have done so. And just
if you didn't get it, it's a big deal.
I've noticed that. I'll tell you right now, he wanted to really make sure we were clear on that matter, right? Okay. How many times can he say the same thing?
It's a big deal. Yeah. And if you look at it, EU is a big deal because it's one of the last bastions of the Western world. What Vance went over and did there earlier this year in terms of talking in Germany and saying we held this common truth of freedom of speech and we don't feel that that's been upheld here, and you want our defence and support, why would we, without saying it, basically, why would we support something that we go, hey, this is important to us and you're not upholding the end of the deal here?
But why would we support you? Why would we do business with you if you don't have the same common, ideals, ethics, and wanting... I mean, look, free speech, we talk about it every single day here on Age Radio Australia, and there's a very good reason for it. We see it is under attack, and we see so many restrictions in our movement and what we can say and what we can do. We do need somebody to step up and actually stand for that, and that's what the US is doing. And okay, yes, it's doing a little bit of strong arming when it comes to the EU, and for that matter, a big part of the world. But okay, here in Australia rather, full stop. If we don't play the game, Trump has the ability to push our tariffs up, and that will actually change the policy. This is funny. I mean, this is fundamentally about freedom of speech, right?
Absolutely. It's interesting. And the person who bought the right to have freedom of speech, Elon Musk, paid a pretty penny for Twitter. Let's have a look at what he said regarding the EU over the weekend. Now, he put up this post, and somebody's put up a big blog regarding what should happen moving forward for the EU. And it said, in fact, let me just call it up here. Somebody wrote this, that is it going to happen?
I'm just going to just press your button again and see. We've got the wheel of death at the moment. This could be censorship. Who knows?
Who knows?
No, but we'll just see if that pops up.
Somebody put up the EU courts have ruled that Ireland does not have an obligation to provide housing to asylum seekers. And this comes a day after Irish courts ruled that we have no such obligation. The EU should have absolutely zero say over who's entitled to housing in Ireland. What happened was Elon responded to that response by saying Ireland should leave the EU. All countries should IMO. It is destroying democracy in Europe. And so...
well, it's very, very true. It is destroying democracy in Europe. I mean, there's a reason why Brexit happened, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's funny how the history of the EU has come into play. We saw the economic weakness of the EU. Everybody thought it's going to be great, it's going to be fantastic. All these smaller nations are going to share one currency, will share resources, which is kind of socialistic when you start thinking of breaking it down.
Socialism, as we know, is communist light, right? It's the Diet Coke of communism. But let's look at countries like Greece.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look at the decay of the financial system there, right?
You took the words right out of my mouth. That was the case where we're going, well, maybe we've got a bit of a sinking boat here. We've got a leak in the boat, and this is not really great, especially for nations like Germany. And, remember, West Germany was a powerhouse of itself before they merged. So West Germany's had to take on Eastern Germany. Yep. And again, under communism, it wasn't a strong powerhouse at all. So that they've had to recover over that. The breaking down of the Berlin Wall. Then they've had the situation where they've had to, deal with the EU and Greece being the leaky boat in the situation and bail them out when they were facing bankruptcy. So there's been fractures in the system. And we saw, of course, Britain leave that under Boris Johnson when they exited from there. And that was an ordeal in itself, trying to untangle themselves from it. Also, look how much the UK government really fought against the will of their own people. I mean, the people voted to get rid of the EU, to move out of the EU. And the government just showed its contempt, as far as I'm concerned, for their people. I mean, what are your thoughts there? Well, I think one of the biggest issues that people miss in the whole Brexit situation was they were they had to, under those rules, allow anyone across their borders. Rather ironic when you think about what's going on in England now, where they've had so many channel crossings lately, and they're all rising up and going, you have allowed all this, you've broken our borders, you've allowed all these foreigners in through France, and just turn it in complete blind eye to it. It's very ironic.
Well, let's use this opportunity as well. Okay, for those who are watching this, you may not have seen this on mainstream media, or you definitely won't see it on mainstream media. You have to go look elsewhere. But there have been massive protests in the UK about this. Okay? Yes. It is not being shown. Certainly, the BBC seems to think it's just it doesn't exist.
That's just in the last few days.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people in the street showing their people power. But the media, the corporate media, and the media who are very much controlled by funding that comes from government and the controls there, behind all of that. So this is a big deal. This is a big deal. People are sick of it. People have had enough, and they want out of it. I mean, I'm looking at your screen now, and you've got these massive protests that are taking place. Manchester,
Waterloo.
There we go. London and Newcastle as well.
Yeah.
These are not small amounts of people. It's very impressive to see people power, but we need to keep the foot on the throttle, really.
Absolutely. And you've got to do it for your kids. And I mean, I see people just showing such bravery, feeling like they're the lone soldier at times. And they're doing it, hey, I'm doing it for my children, I'm doing it for my grandchildren. And yes, it can feel like the lonely journey, as I'm sure you're familiar with.
Felt it once or twice before, yeah.
But I won't break out into Michael Jackson, you're not alone. But, it's a situation of, hey, there's a lot of people feeling this way. And that movement is building and building, and people are catching on as the information gets out.
Very true.
And of course, they don't want the information to get out, and that's really, really interesting.
That's right. And people should be aware the information is getting out. People are talking about it. Pretty much everybody I talk to in every sort of level of life and business, and just whether they be in the awake community or the general population or whatever, people are talking about this now. It is now in the conscience of most people.
Now, given that England, we've just been talking about them, has just passed rules that are really, really censoring the masses on social media and what they think. These questions, the journos threw them at Donald Trump when he visited Scotland, and they did so in front of Starmer. Take a look at this. It's quite interesting how this plays.
I love this.
Here to censor your site, states mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook. Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. There's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud.
But that can treat all adults
free
like
speech
children.
in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection issue.
We actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. This is more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Mr. President.
Look, Starmer is just a blatant liar. It's a simple, that is blatant lies. When people are being arrested, there are people right now in UK prisons for their thoughts. That's not a joke. I mean, the people who are actually praying quite a distance away from an abortion clinic are now sitting in jail, right? There are people right now rotting in my apologies, UK prisons because of what they put on Facebook.
Tommy Robinson was put in solitary confinement for his thoughts and his activisms, which is really, really fascinating.
So how dare Starmer actually say that he stands for free speech at any level? It's just a blatant lie.
Well, Trump certainly, he was there in Scotland and he exercised his First Amendment. Take a look at what his thoughts were when it came to the Mayor of London.
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor. I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But the nasty person, I think he's done. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
What's interesting about that is Trump doesn't back off when he says he's a friend of mine.
I know. I love that. Absolutely love that.
I think he's a terrible person.
Screw polite company. Absolutely. But that needs to be done, right? I mean, as I say, we've got all of these people like Starmer who look, they're just installed Muppets, right? The oligarchs are very much in control of them. That's like, okay, you might not, and I look, Trump drives me nuts from time to time. His rhetoric and the way he goes about things. But I love the fact that I know when he speaks, it's real, it's raw, and it's never censored.
Which would you prefer, right? Oh, which would you prefer?
I would rather the ugly truth than a comfortable lie, right?
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And unfortunately, a lot of people can't handle the ugly truth. And this is not just isolated to the political space. I'm finding that also in the personal space and stuff like that, how much speaking the truth can get you in trouble. And I think this is what we've got to wake up to and realize, listen, truth comes at a price.
Yeah, it does.
But it's so important to tell it rather than to tell lies. Now, of course, you've got to pick your moments. You've got to just not be unwise about it. You've certainly got to be wise about what you know. As Trump would, I'm sure he knows a heck of a lot of what's going on behind the scenes in the world politics that he can't say publicly to the media when the cameras are rolling. However, you've got to pick your moments. And I think this is a big, big fight that, it's kind of like if you censor me with my Truth Social, well, where are we up to in terms of trade negotiations?
Yes. What was that tariff again?
What was the numbers up to?
But I mean, okay, the US is a great experiment, right? Okay, the whole fact of that, they are literally United States and they all have very different laws and all that kind of thing. But the fundamental is that Constitution, and they really stick to that Constitution. Gee, I wish we had one. I know we have one, but we don't have a Bill of Rights, and we have a Constitution which is like, I don't know, half-baked. It really is.
Well, when you start to confront like Labor politicians like I did recently and say, listen, do you know your party is a socialist democratic party? Article 4, they're like, okay. It is Article 4. Okay. And you get the blank stare.
Yes, you do.
You are representing something that you haven't read the Constitution and what you represent.
I know.
You don't know what you stand for. Very dangerous position to be in.
Look, Derek, it's on the first page. Like, and I'm not a big reader. I can't stand reading, so I like to take my content in other ways. But if I'm going to join a political party, and I have in the past, here's trouble. Mr. Carter is there. We'll bring him on in just a second. Well, he's brought himself on. But if you're going to join a party, like, okay, do a little research, have a bit of read the Constitution. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Carter there in a long way away, I won't say where, because I think you might be telling us fib on the screen there of where you are. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, sorry, I got the time zones totally mixed up.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. That's why. Now, your volume is very low, so I've cranked you up to the max, but if you could just check at your end, we'd appreciate that.
No worries. Just give us a moment to fix this up. I'll be right there.
While Travis is doing that, I'd like, if you think that we are saying you won't crank up the prices, have a look at this next slide in terms of Trump's response to Canada. It's really, really interesting. And he knows that, he can throw his weight around and people will have to jump. Take a look at this slide here. So he says, wow, Canada has just announced that it's backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
And, they have increased their tariffs on Canadian goods from 25% to 35% as of August the 1st. 2025, due to concerns of Canada's handling of fentanyl and other drugs, of course, and Canadian goods are exempt from these tariffs under the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. But, it's kind of like, look, this is the equivalent of Australia putting tariffs on New Zealand. This is kind of the relationship they have.
I'm tempted from time to time. The Kiwis, come on. All right, I'm very interested to hear your opinion there, Mr. Cartier.
Well, this is hopefully I fixed up my volume on my mic, but
still a little low.
It's all right. There we go. So there's a reason Alberta is going to be voting to leave Canada because they just don't want to be dealing with this shit. To put it blunt, They produce something like 70 or 80% of the GDP in one state because that's where all the resources are. And then if Canada's going to take this action, why would they want to stick around? I think Trump's well within his right to do what he's doing. I think they were pulling in something like $18 billion a month just on the increase in the tariffs. Sorry, it went up 18%. It was like $30 billion a month that America has increased the income. So, like, why would
I heard the figure of 160 billion so far.
No, that's per month.
Is it really?
30 billion with a B per month, according to CBS.
Yeah, no, I'm talking since the changes. Okay, there we go. There you go.
So it's an amount of money. Like America is just kicking goals left, right, and centre.
Mm-hmm.
And when you actually have a look at the Canadian economy versus the American economy, why would you bother? Like, just they don't adhere to the same principles as America. So why would you trade with them? Australia's in the same position. Like, we really have to look at what's going on. Albanese is like taking us for a long walk of a short pier when it comes to America.
It really is. And I mean, the fact that Rudd is still out there, still as the ambassador, I think that says so much. It just shows the weakness of our PM. And, you know, and he's quite frankly, his lack of ability to understand and to read the room, the international.
Well, ironically, Labor is claiming it as a victory that Australia's gotten away with the minimum amount of tariffs on the nation, and they think it's fantastic because they haven't done anything. Really, that's the reality. And if they do something, this is the reality that they face. I heard this opinion on Sky News. I thought that's actually a very good point. If you start putting in these rules of censoring kids on the internet and adults on the internet and put these digital IDs and situations in, well, guess what? You're going to be renegotiating your tariffs. You're going to get something slugged a little bit higher than you've prepared for.
Look, the other way we could all look at this, and there's part of me that does, is I don't like being bullied by anybody, right? And there's a level of okay, in any negotiation, there's kind of a level of bullying, for want of a better word, right?
Not everyone, but some of them.
Yeah, okay, in a lot. It's certainly a lot of them. And with America saying you either do it our way or, you know, you'll face the consequences, I don't like that. But I also live in the real world, and I also understand that you need to have that in any level of negotiation. I also believe very much in free speech. I believe in that our children deserve to have the right to grow up in a world where they can say what they think. I think that we have the freedom of movement. I think we should have the control of our own money as well, not digital cash and yada, 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 or obviously our freedoms in crypto, whatever. We have all of these rights, and I think that right now America seems to be the only one standing up for them.
There's certainly been an agenda by many nations to follow suit and sing from the same songbook. And I think Trump's just calling out the song and saying, hey, we need to address the elephant in the room.
All right, speaking of elephants in the room, he is not sexy, even though he put his name out with that himself. Travis, what's your thought?
You were so wrong in that one. So let's say you're having a housewarming party at your house and a guest comes in and goes, I don't like the walls are blue, I want to paint them green, and you will do it because I said so. What's the first thing you're doing too? I'm
going to throw them out.
Spot on. America's doing the same thing. It's their house, it's their rules. You want to trade with us, you'll follow by our rules. Canada's not
that's the same thing. It's not the same thing at all.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
You're imposing your own rules on another country, and you're imposing your own ethics on another country, which is not cool. But in this case, it's just so bloody necessary because the left has lost with the web and all of that. UN.
There's more to it than that. These nations are relying on the United States for defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fair for them to go, well, what are we defending here?
Yeah,
right.
True.
You want us to defend you. You want us to fight your battles. You want our American boys and girls to go have bloodshed against your enemies at what cost? And you think that it's okay for you to misbehave and shut down your own nation's freedoms of speech and this sort of stuff when we stand for freedom and democracy. You want us to play that game? You want us to front up for your battles and wars?
Sure.
Well, there's a price to pay.
Okay. What he said. I agree.
Let me ask you another question then. So if one of your, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a scenario here, like something that you're anti. Let's say you've got a female friend who supports parental alienation.
Right. She's no longer my friend.
Spot on. So America does not support the removal of freedom of speech. So why should they be forced to be an ally with a country that does not share their opinions?
Okay. I can't argue with that. No, fair call. Fair call.
It's America's house. It's their rules. If they don't want to trade with someone, or if they want to impose really harsh sanctions or tariffs on someone because they don't share the same values that they do, they're well within their right. The company that those things are being pushed on also has the right not to trade with America. They can go to Russia, they can go to North Korea, they can go to China, they can go wherever they want, but they choose to go to America. So it's up to them to pick their trade partners.
And further to that, right, you've sat here before and told me how you disagree with certain men's razors because of what they stood for in terms of their advertising campaign. So you took your economic choice elsewhere. It's the same for the United States. We've got all these customers, right? These are the ethics that we do. Sure. We should be able to do business with who we like. And if you don't want to play according to those rules, fine. We'll put the tariffs up and that sort of thing. It's the same sort of thing. I mean, as a business owner, there are certain people that you go, are we a good mix if we do a joint venture together? Should we be doing business together? Or if we don't, because there could be problems later if we don't share some common values in place here, right? And agree on certain principles. Well, this is a principle that's is breakable for them. That breaks the deal. If you don't have freedom of speech in a nation, up goes your tariff.
Now, let's look at this. We're sitting here. We're talking about free speech. Both of you have shared your opinion, and you've changed my mind. So there you go. The beauty of
it should be absolutely uninhibited in any way whatsoever, because it goes even further, even the stuff like extremisms, especially on the social side of things. If you have some crazy nut job speaking their truths in public and they're able to be debated, how many people would actually go, you know what, maybe this isn't the right stance? Or people go, you know what, that person actually is a dickhead. I want nothing to do with them.
Agreed. Actually, somebody brought that forward to me just the other day about somebody who wants to actually come and was chasing a platform and they want to talk about something unbelievably disgusting. Okay, the most disgusting thing that I think we can all join on the fact of, how there's a particular part of society who don't see an age as a barrier, we'll call it that. Okay. Somebody was actually saying that, they know someone who actually wants to debate that. And I said, and they go, I bet you wouldn't let that on edge. And I said, yeah, I would actually.
I think it's that we do put it on edge so people understand to stay away from that person and to protect their kids from people like that.
Bingo. My point was, I will, look, if they want to come on, I will actually let them, I'll welcome them in. But I'll also bring someone in with a counter argument, okay? So you can hear both sides and you can make your own mind. And I think that, let's face it, we all would come to the same conclusion.
Well, it used to be in the day and age, like back in the day when I went to university, right?
Yes.
We welcome debates. We welcome the situation where, maybe there's something that this person can tell me that I'm just not seeing. That was the whole point of debating. It was like an open mind. We may not agree. Why do you tell me more why you think that? And I'll tell you why I think this. And maybe we can come to, expanding each other's mind, just like you have demonstrated here on air, and credit to you. But now most people can't go there. We disagree. I'm out of here. I'm offended. And it doesn't help society. It doesn't help relationships. No. We've got to grow up.
We've got to grow up. And when I was growing up at school and further studies, all kind of thing, we did good old-fashioned debate, didn't we? And it was robust. And you didn't agree with the other person, but you brought your argument forward. And guess what? You might learn something. Yeah. What a surprise.
And it was accepted rules of engagement that, hey, we're not here, it's nothing personal. We're all trying to find truth.
Well, now there's someone with a very short purple haircut that has a different opinion about that.
Okay, so talking about short purple haircuts, our favourite lefty Taz, she's actually on your personal page, that's where the comments aren't coming out. How am I supposed to know you're live if you don't go live on Twitch? So I've just noticed you're not on Twitch, Aaron, and because I'm not on the admin account, I can't add it. That's okay.
And I'll tell you why we're not on Twitch today is because this gentleman called Travis Carter, who is in charge of that Twitch, he didn't re-sign us in. So that's why I went to sign us in before and couldn't, mate. That's the only reason we're not on Twitch today. So sorry, Taz, and sorry that I can't see your comment. I really appreciate there's comments coming from all different locations there, but I can't see them all. Sadly, I can only see Travis Carter's, which is just terrifying at this stage. But yes, mate, so you'll need to sign in and fix the Twitch account.
No, I just signed in. It's all up.
It's all up. There we go. All right, fantastic.
So while you guys have been doing your housekeeping,
appreciate that.
Somebody on the federal board, it's been interesting to watch Trump's relationship with the Fed over the last few weeks. He paid a visit out there and did a field day trip type of thing, or a field trip to it, to check out the big bill that's gone across and how the budget is just blown out to billions and billions of dollars. It was a hilarious take. I don't know if you saw it, where both of them are standing there with their hard hats on and
I missed this
they're
one.
correcting each other in terms of the actual how much it's cost. It was
yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, and they're disagreeing. And where did that figure come? It came from you guys, and he's pointing out to, that's for 3 buildings and all this sort of thing. Well, since then, Adriana Kugler, a Biden appointee who has been sitting on the board of the Fed Reserve, has resigned from her position.
Oh, what a great loss!
Now, this is interesting because, as you know, if you look at the next slide here, you'll see that Trump puts this out, and I actually think it could be rather a tactical move here that plays out.
Now, I don't know. This one, is it this one here?
Yep, that's it
Let's
there.
have a look.
He says, too late, Powell should resign, just like Adriana Kugler, a Biden appointee, resigned. She knew he was doing the wrong thing on interest rates. He should resign also. He has been pushing Powell to reduce interest rates. Now, Powell's tenure at the Federal Reserve is coming up for a renewal very, very soon, and the pressure is on to, Trump wants to get rid of him. And this might be interesting if he nominates someone else to sit on the board as Adriana steps down. It could be quite pivotal for him to put in his own appointee there and have some influence there.
Supreme Court action, hey?
It's going to be interesting because, she was a Biden appointee. So, watch that space as that plays out. I don't think we're going to see Jerome last too much longer, though. I don't think he's going to be able to handle the heat. There could possibly be a lot of pressure internally as well, saying, look, you need to step down, Jerome, and this sort of stuff. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out. Why is that a big deal? Because interest rates have a flow-on effect to the economy. And America's economy is ripping along right now, and yet they're paying so much interest in relation to what they owe on their debt, which is massive.
Servicing that debt is it is crippling the US.
The interest rate is higher. The interest they have to pay on the debt is higher than their annual spend on their military, which is not a small bill at all by any means. So this dynamic is he really wants the interest rate to go down so that Americans pay less, and it also could stimulate the economy as all this foreign investment goes into the United States. But it should be a very interesting 6 months ahead as all these effects that he's changed so much in the first 6 to 7 months of his term start flowing in, because an economy, it's kind of like a pipeline. You start putting water into the lines and this sort of stuff. It takes a while for that to reach its destination.
Sure.
It's going to be a fascinating economy to do that. Now, I would not be surprised if we're over the next 4 or 5 weeks for a bumpy ride internationally and economically on the markets. I would not be surprised at all, because I think there's going to be some pushback from Trump's enemies, because you also got to kind of remember he is blowing apart the DOJ is looking at the whole Russian collusion narrative that happened in his first term. It's come out to be an out-and-out lie that the Democrats, they claim, the Republicans are claiming that they have evidence proving that the Democrats set that all up, and it was a narrative they created. There was no collusion with the Russians for that first term.
We have seen that. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, it makes Obama look incredibly guilty here. And why are we not talking about impeachment? Oh, yes, we are. Okay. He is a former president. Guess what? It's probably his time to be impeached. What I'm a little bit concerned about is now we've got this tit for tat thing going on. It has been going on for a long time. What's going to happen now? We're going to find every president gets impeached. Is this going to be the way forward?
Well, I think, they're comparing this to Watergate, and they're saying this is a lot bigger than Watergate.
I agree, actually. I think it is.
And I mean, who's the innocent victim here? Well, I don't know about victim, but Russia didn't. Russia says we didn't do it. This sort of thing. If that comes out, apparently they had the ability to do it, but they chose not to, because there is one narrative that's coming out that said that they didn't think Trump was going to win, so they didn't get involved in it, sort of thing. I don't. How to prove that? It's difficult, but this is what's going on in the background.
Travis?
So I'd love to just bring it back to that post from Trump about the Reserve Bank. So a lot of people don't actually understand this one here about what's actually going on in America at the moment with the interest rates. So at the moment, most of Europe, most of the rest of the world, the Reserve Bank's between 2 and 3%. America's over 4% at the moment. So a lot of Western countries, they're actually 2% above where they should be, according to Trump. Now, if you put that into perspective, the average mortgage in Australia is about $500,000. So each 1% is a $5,000 a year extra that you're paying on your interest rates. So that's just money going to profits to the banks. So in Australia, 2% is actually costing everyday people $10,000 a year. That's the average across the board. So in America, I think the average mortgage over there is about $300,000 US. So you're looking about $3,000 a year when there's already a cost of living crisis. Now, let me ask you this, Aaron. How much better could you do with an extra $10,000 a year in your pocket?
It would change my life completely.
Spot on. And that's how it's going. So he is literally holding all of America to ransom with these interest rates. There's absolutely no reason for them to keep them as high as they are. But he should be public enemy number one. This is absolutely left.
And a lot of couples can't get into their first home because of the interest rates and save that. And I think this is going to be an interesting flow and effect to the US housing market, because you're having a lot of deporting going on of illegal aliens in the United States, right? So property in the United States is a really dubious type of investment at the moment because of that, because you've got high interest rates. You've got couples who can't get into the housing market because of the interest rates. And then you've got people leaving the United States because they're going, we're being deported through ICE and all those.
So we're finding there's more houses available, therefore the supply has been increased, but the money is too difficult to purchase.
And what's that going to have to do with, of course, the ability to buy people who want to sell houses to purchase them? And of course, rentals, will they go down, right? Because there's going to be oversupply. This is a funny dynamic that's going on.
Well, it'd be interesting to ask the man who he does a lot of moving, so he'll know a lot about houses. Because a moment ago he was in Vietnam, apparently now he's in Panama City.
So I've been in Panama for about 6 days. So we get our residency on Monday.
Cool.
Anyway, we'll go to that more later. But so Derek's looking out the housing market is going to go down, the rentals and all that sort of stuff is going to go down. You got to remember, a lot of people who are non-documented migrants can't get bank loans to buy houses and stuff like that. So a lot of the houses that they were actually in aren't the greatest houses. So all of a sudden, all these really trashy houses that were valued between $10,000 to $20,000 are now becoming vacant and coming back onto the market. So there's actually a massive boom for a lot of houses coming onto the market, which you can pick up stupid cheap, put maybe another $20,000, $30,000 into it, especially if you're an American citizen where you can get finance on these houses. So you can spend $50,000 on purchasing the house, renovating the house, and all of a sudden you've got a great rental property that can get anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500 a week. So there's actually a lot of opportunities here, especially places like Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, New York State. A lot of these places, especially the sanctuary cities, you can pick up some amazingly cheap properties at the moment that just need a bit of a renovation on them, and they're going to be amazing and awesome. So there is opportunity.
Taz is written on the bottom of the screen. You want him to comment on that? Can you see that?
I did the maths. I have 2 jobs and Tony's FIFO, but we still don't meet the threshold requirement to own our own home. There you go. That's a very, very common story in Australia. Now, imagine, Taz, if your capacity went up an extra $10,000, there's a very good chance you'd meet the capacity to be able to purchase a house. Also, Taz, something you might want to have a look at, this is what the one I did because I was earning my money through foreign exchange trading. They wouldn't allow it for the calculations of whether we could afford property. So we went to the dodgiest place we could find, which was Rangeway in Geraldton. We picked up a set of duplexes for $70,000, and the condition of sale was the rental appraisal. And we used the rental appraisals on those properties because they were positively geared. That gave us the capacity to actually purchase a house in Perth. So there's always ways around things. You just got to be creative sometimes. So feel free to
none of this financial advice. We're just having a conversation here, but there we go.
So anyway, just a bit of a teaser. We do have a couple of special guests coming up in a show in a couple of weeks, especially for people who want to look at international investing, stuff like that. So I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to let Derek tease that one, but more info on coming out soon, especially on blueskyfactory.com.au.
Everything is changing and new opportunities are sprouting up. In fact, I'm starting another course tomorrow highlighting that. So if you're interested in this, this is one of our real entry-level type courses that came about when I was debanked a couple of years ago. I thought, what am I going to do with this? I'm left vulnerable. That some banking organization can, at the click of a mouse stroke, decide whether I can access my funds or not. I did a lot of research on how can I get out of that kind of middleman power. But it led me to discover two things. One, some of the things I was doing was right, so I did double down and did more. But secondly, it showed me that the banks are quietly changing everything behind the scenes that most people don't even know about. And we're watching an old system of finance actually crumble, kind of symbolized by this next video that I find interesting. I mean, look, I don't want to be harsh on her, but it was very interesting to see that Senator Warren went through this kind of fall, and it kind of symbolizes what's going on.
Baldwin, Blunt Rochester, Heinrich.
Look, anybody can lose their balance and that sort of stuff.
Hey, look, clearly someone poked Pocahontas. That's why she's fallen over, okay?
But
10 points, Aaron.
we're seeing the old guard change here, and it's this whole system is collapsing.
It really is. It really is. And I'm loving watching Nancy Pelosi at the moment as well when they're talking about insider trading. That has been very, very special. Her net worth, I mean, what she earns.
About $170,000 a year she earns. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's her portfolio size again? Her and her husband.
What is it, 40 million or something?
No.
400 million.
400 million. Yeah. Close, but no.
I need to add another zero.
That's right. I tell you right now, that is whoever is giving her financial advice.
Well, Trump's come out and said it, right? He said, we need to stop insider trading. He's called her out on it now. So it's really fascinating that. And now her daughter is going to run for a seat as well. So
have you seen the stats for her trading versus Warren Buffett, who's the greatest trader? It's something like 53 times better results than Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane, the rate. But you have a look at the top, I think it was like top 20 traders in the world, and 9 politicians are above Warren Buffett.
No way. Well,
amounts. Yeah. I'll see if I can find her and I'll send it to you.
I don't know why I'm sounding surprised by this, because I'm certainly not in any way, shape or form. Look, if you want to get financial advice, this is not the place to do it. That's not what we do. But if you do want to actually understand the system better and get an understanding of how you can actually take yourself to the next level, look at that, blueskyfactory.com.au. Get some proper education about how the systems operate and how you can make the most for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Not financial advice, it's financial education.
Exactly.
Very
well
good.
done on that one. Gentlemen, well, look, when I say that, I always invert the comments when I say that with Travis in the room, but it is very nice to see you, mate, there on the screen, and great to get your insight today. Do you have any, anything you want to bring to us about you and your travels at the moment?
Oh, flying to Panama is shit.
Okay, that's not where I was going, but okay.
British Airlines is amazing, by the way. It's just there's no seat. I'm 6'3". I don't fit into most of the seats. But Panama is a fascinating place. Not all of it good. I would never ever live here, but they're one of the 2 countries that I'm aware of here in Greece that will actually allow you to be a resident without actually living in the country. Now, talking to what Derek was saying about his course on people getting their accounts frozen and things like that, there's a bank over here called Tower Bank. Now, we are not sponsored by Tower Bank, but if you want to sponsor us, welcome aboard. They will allow you to do money transfers in cryptos, and Panama still has anonymous banking, which means they do not report any details to the government, the authorities. They don't send it back to Australia or anything like that. So if you are one of those people that are concerned about your financial anonymity, I think Panama is a very, very great place to look at. So, but yes, we've got more information coming up about that in the coming.
You have to do this with advice. You must get really specific general advice. This is a real area that can be a hot potato if you don't know what you're doing. So,
completely agreed. And look, I want to lay out the fact that this is not about if you've got something to hide. People always say, you want anonymity rather if you've got something to hide. No, look, we have the right to some privacy. We also have the right to control of our own money. And when you can be debanked, or you can have a bank telling you what you can and can't spend your money in. I mean, we're talking about even relatively small amounts of money. I was speaking to someone very recently who they literally gave them just the most ridiculous detailed questions, and the bank would not give them $4,000. $4,000. Okay, come off it. When they're saying, no, we will not give you that money unless you give us a very detailed reason what you're doing with it and what you're spending with it. And this person had made up a completely ridiculous thing and was quite a bit of a smart aleck about it. And I don't mind that. I think that's fair in this situation. But end of the day, it's your money. You should have control of it.
Totally.
So, and it's even not even about with us, it wasn't about the privacy side of things, because I unfortunately, and like Aaron, yourself there, a product of the family law court in Australia, and seeing what they've done to people like Derek and other friends of ours, where they've just turned around like, oh, we don't like what you said, or you've done something that they disagreed with. They just lock your accounts.
Yep.
They can't lock your account if it's not in Australia.
We saw this happen in the Canadian truckers, and you got to remember they're part of the Commonwealth, guys. So that's the big deal.
Thank you to the Woo Flu for waking so many people up on this one. Yeah. We now see what's going on so many levels, and thank you to those Canadian truckers for the fact that they actually stood up for what's important, and they, the consequences to them were very, very strong. But it has shown the rest of the world
and people who were supporting them financially as well.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, mate.
What makes me laugh is when they were grabbing people with the jerry cans because you weren't allowed to give them diesel to warm the trucks. So a whole heap of people were like, some had fuel and a whole heap of other people had empty jerry cans. And it's like, well, you said it's illegal to carry diesel. You didn't say anything about just holding jerry cans. So all these people were running around with empty jerry cans, so the cops didn't know who to grab.
Oh, well, okay, this comes down to a lot of things that are, this man, Derek, always says about the fact opportunity, right? Okay. You're always creating opportunity. I'm going to get
you wanted to sell those jerry cans to those people, didn't you?
There's always a market, right? There's got to be a market. Now, before we close the show, you just want to throw it to you, mate. Any last thoughts before we end?
What exciting times we live in, hey? What a wonderful time to be alive in history. What opportunities that we face that I believe, look, we are in a shift that generational wealth can be made. I'm not hyping this up. These opportunities don't just come on every 10 years, 20 years. We're talking centuries. We are facing that right now. Please, for the sake of your children and your family, find out about it. Get the education you need because, these opportunities, the window used to be like this big. It's this big now, all right? So don't miss out on it.
All right, thanks very much for being part of the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.